Welcome to Beccaro and Hook Enlightened Dissent. I am Steve Hook. There's my partner in crime, thought crime, that is, Tom Beccaro. Again, remember to check us out on YouTube, Rumble, Patriot.tv/DHED, and of course, our good buddies over at Ex American News. You can find us there as well. And don't forget our landing page. If you forgot all those links, and I went through them a little bit fast, just go to DellAndHook.com. It's right here below me on the screen, DellAndHook.com. All of our links are there, including all episodes that we've done in the past. So it's a great website. Well, Tom, here we are. It's official. We are into the Biden. Whoa.
Wow.
I know, buddy. We are into the Trump second term. And so far, it's going just swimmingly. We've got an excellent guest to talk about immigration coming up in a little bit, Todd Bensman. But are you happy thus far, Tom?
Well, what we're seeing is difference between political platitudes and business deliverables. Donald Trump gets into office and he's there to work. And you actually know who's directing the work. When the entire Biden administration, starting with, I don't know if you remember, way back in the day when he was signing his first executive orders, he didn't know what one was. And Kamala Harris whispered in the back, just sign it. Well, that became a metaphor or an actual modus operandi for the Biden administration, right? And so it's different now. Trump's directing things. Trump's given more press conferences than maybe Biden did the entire time. And so there is a person in charge. There is a direction. And the other side doesn't know how to deal with it. James Carville, in his way, said Trump's thrown a lot of blank out there and we don't have a response. Normally it's the left that is doing things 24/7 and the right falls to sleep some of the time on it. Now it's Trump's doing things 24/7 and the left has no response because honestly they only have one policy. Their policy is government expenditures. And that their only response is, oh, you shouldn't do that. It's unfair. Or you've got to do things equitably, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, people want actually things done. And so the Trump train has left the station and they're looking down the track and looking at each other, wondering what to do.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, you mentioned Trump talking about hitting the ground running. I mean, here's a guy that is signing stacks and stacks of executive orders while he's answering questions. It's just the difference is night and day. And I agree with you. I think the Kamala's line, just sign it. It is indicative of the way that entire administration ran things. It was obviously a chorus of lefties that were actually the president. It wasn't just Biden. And what a difference one man can make to come in there and sign EOs while he's fielding questions. And I heard Peter Doocy say, when Biden was in office, as soon as the last question was asked, the staffers could not rush the media out of the room fast enough. Whereas with Trump, he'll just take any question. He doesn't care. He's like, yeah, fire away. Tom, do you think this is it's a great reflection on Trump as a leader, I think. But to Carville's point, in his inimitable style, the Cajun style of his, you can hear the frustration in his voice. But I think that this is where identity politics has boomeranged on them, and the American people are fed up with it. So what answer could they have other than, well, we don't have an answer for this. That son of a bitch is throwing so much crap out there. You know how Carville is. The faster he talks, the less he has to say because he knows that they have no answers.
Well, the problem for them is that, when they lose elections, the people that lose the elections are in the middle and the old guard stays there. We talked before about this is why you get the type of questioning you get at these confirmation hearings. And I wrote a piece for Fox months, I think in November, whatever it was, the point being that the Democrats have got the hard time coming back into relevance here because their only response is government. And people know that government failed them, just as they're witnessing it out in California. And so the issue for them is that they have no relevant response right now. And the path back was what Clinton did, right? To be more moderate, but the vast majority of their people don't believe in any of that. The Tammy Death Works and Miss Hawaii, that's who they are.
Hirano, Miss Hawaii.
Yeah, I don't. Miss Hawaii, and they're not gonna. So they're gonna have a hard time making it back.
Yeah, they are going to have a very hard time making it back, and that's what I mean by the diversity. The DEI eventually ended up. It's the old adage, they've been hoisted by their own petard. I mean, when you lean into that so heavily for so long, and then it wears thin with the American people, and you've got nothing else to lean into, where do you go from there? I think Carville has seen the writing on the wall, and yeah, I mean, good God, I don't know that they're ever going to be able to turn this around until they really reevaluate where they want to be as a party. And with more government, Tom, to your point, look what we've lost faith in the last 4 years. People have lost complete faith in the CDC, in Fauci and
did Biden pardon the CDC? I can't remember. Was it just Fauci or the whole?
Well, he did pardon Fauci. I don't know. So there's the National Institutes of Health covered. But the point is that he, with all these blanket pardons, but people have lost faith in these major institutions. We don't trust the CIA anymore. We certainly don't trust the FBI. We don't trust the CDC. We don't trust the National Institutes of Health. So when the Democrats come back and say, we're just going to give you more government, that message is falling on deaf ears.
Yeah, absolutely, because we're still in it's the economy stupid phase, and they're not going to be able to make that transition. The question here for those looking at history is, do they go the way of the Labour Party from the 70s and 80s and 90s in England, where they couldn't pivot away from their intense love for government or their one-trick pony, and they had to wait recently for the Conservatives not to deliver on promises to come back into power, even though they're out of step. That's what we'll have to see here. I think they will, because if you look at even these early votes where the Democrats cannot vote but for their radical left ideology on simple issues, like the Lake and Riley Act and other things like that. How is it still possible that these people refuse to want to deport hardened criminals? Why are they still against that? And the answer is because they're just locked into their methodology and the crazy statements that their leader, I mean, Hakeem Jeffries is first of all, what a jerk, showing up to the inauguration in tennis shoes, in sneakers. Get some class, okay? Not to mention Jeff Bezos' wife. But Hakeem Jeffries saying out loud that because men won't be able to play in women's sports, that they're going to be assaults on to check whether there's genitals or not. They can't help themselves, because that's how far out they are and shall remain.
Yeah, you're not kidding. It's really kind of funny to watch. It's like watching a political party's autopsy while they're still alive on the table. I'm like, are you guys not paying attention to what the hell's going on? As I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk to Todd Bensman about the crackdown at the southern border. And it's, of course, not just at the southern border. It's in every state now. Big roundup from ICE yesterday in Boston. One of the guys that they rounded up was a Haitian gangbanger. As he's being loaded into the car, he's screaming, F Trump. Joe Biden is the man. Joe Biden all day long. Thank you, Barack Obama, for everything you did for me. And I'm not going back to Haiti and F Trump. It's like a campaign commercial done in real time. I mean, how do the Democrats say, well, we're not really with that Haitian guy? Well, he's certainly with you.
Yeah, that was almost a Willie Horton ad in the making right there. Excuse me. Yeah. Again, the results of their policies are evident, and they can't move away from them. They only know resistance. I get it. I mean, if they just went along with Trump, they'd be out in the wilderness, and if they stick with their policies, they go out in the wilderness. They're old guards in charge still, right? It may be that Hakeem Jeffries is in there, but he's more radical than Nancy Pelosi. That's people don't get that. Nancy Pelosi is not as radical as AOC and Hakeem Jeffries. So they're between a rock and a hard place. Yeah. But as I've been saying all over the media, the Republicans, as the Conservative Party of Britain proved, you have to produce economic results. And the problem for everyone is that because government is such a large part of the economy, producing economic results is harder. Think about this. When federal government's 3 times the size or more, maybe 4 times the size of when Reagan was in office. And so he did a tax cut, and that had great effect. The problem is that because government is so much bigger and it has caused so many problems and is such a heavy burden on the economy, just when you cut taxes doesn't have the same beneficial effect as an economy where government is only 20% versus the 45% it is now when you throw in regulations. So it's even harder for Trump to succeed and get back to it. But that's certainly what we need to do. We're running out of time in this particular segment. We do, one of the biggest policy changes, as you pointed out, is on immigration. So we have a great guest there. I'm still having trouble with getting over this cold. But we also need to remember America Uncensored News Network is covering us as well, and we'll be right back.
Okay, welcome back to Del Beccaro and Hook. We're very happy to welcome our guest, Todd Bensman. Todd is he works with the Senior Immigration Studies. He's a senior national national security fellow with the Center for Immigration Studies. Todd, it's great to see you, my friend. How are you? It's a brand new day in America, buddy. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. I've been seeing some numbers here. The word has gone out, hasn't it? All over Central and South America, because these numbers are slowing down. I think it was Fox News yesterday or the day before, said that the day before Trump assumed the office, and while Biden was still in the office, they had a daily count of just over 4,000 immigrants that they'd been dealing with. And within 48 hours, that number dropped to under 500. So word is going out. That's a good thing. We saw what was happening with ICE. Boy, ICE is manned up in a big way. We saw what went down in Boston yesterday. Why don't you tell us what you're seeing and the sense you're getting from those inside ICE and the Border Patrol? I mean, I'm sure that they must be pumped up about this, huh?
Yeah, I mean, really, none of this is a big surprise. I've said it many times in a public way that this mass migration crisis could be ended in 1 single minute. You didn't need a big Lankford Senate bill or any of that crap comprehensive immigration reform and any of that to end this thing. You just needed the right policies, which they started on the very first day, the first minute of the first day, and it had an immediate effect. I just want to point out that we're looking at like 500 a day border length, compared to a year ago when it was 14,000 a day every day for months. That's the difference. Policies. Now, one thing I'd point out is that we were still letting in the Biden administration right up to the end 80,000 a month by CBP-1 parole programs. They were walking them in over the land bridges, and letting them fly in over the border straight into U.S. cities in those numbers. And the Trump administration canceled that on day one. And there was a lot of predictions. Oh, if you cancel that, they'll all just start crossing the border. It didn't happen. They're going home. And the numbers have dropped even since they canceled CBP-1. And that's because of deportations, expulsions at the border, and detentions, no more catch and release. And when that's the case, they go home. I was in Mexico City, I guess just before in December, when Trump had already won, and I was interviewing migrants in all those camps down there. And most of them were telling me that they were going to go home. That's what's happening. They're going home.
Good. Well,
what about isn't that just to me, it's human beings react to incentives and disincentives. And it seems to me that the Biden administration, and I'd love your take as to, was it just simply to bolster numbers to change the electoral college, or why they were so permissive? But it just seems to me that they gave great incentives for all these people to come here. And then once those incentives were removed, they stopped. Is it more difficult to analyze than that?
It's really that simple. It's the most simple dynamic that there is. There's no complexity whatsoever. Because if I'm an immigrant in Honduras or Africa or something, and I am going to have to muster up $10,000 or $30,000 for smuggling fees, I'm not going to lay that on the felt gambling table unless I know for sure that I'm going to get in, that it's going to pay off. It's that simple. If you know that you're going to be expelled back into Mexico and you're going to be stuck there for years on end, you're not dropping $30,000 or $10,000 or $5,000 at all. It's just that simple.
Yeah. I'm wondering if the cartels are going to say, hey, we've got a cut rate price now. We used to charge 20 grand. Now we'll only charge you 5,000. I mean, I say that half in jest, but the cartels are going to, they've gained so much because of the Biden administration, billions and billions of dollars, really, if you add it all up. And now all of a sudden the new administration comes in, Trump comes in, and the first thing he does is cancel CBP-1. And then like in the next breath, he says, oh, and by the way, Sinaloa and all these cartels, the Jalisco gang, all of them, they are now international terrorists, according to my administration. That's not just a throwaway line. That's going to have severe consequences, Todd. What do you suspect the Trump administration is going to do with regards to these drug and sex trafficking cartels? What are they going to do?
Remains to be seen. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. He gave the State Department 2 weeks to issue a recommendation as to whether they're going to declare them foreign terrorist organizations. That's under the USA Patriot Act. That's in law. That would give the government, our government, new authorities to punish the cartels. But what we're not, like, for example, asset forfeitures, they can block off all their banking. Anybody that does business with them wittingly can be charged with material support for terrorism and end up with a 20-year prison sentence. They can be, immediately blocked from entering the country or removed from the country post haste, all sorts of things. that we can do surveillance. We could even do military ops on them if we wanted, by declaring them. The question, though, is, how, do we have the infrastructure in place to do that? Because the infrastructure we have now, the intelligence community and the what I mean by that is, the military intelligence community, the NSA, all the surveillance guys, and the FBI, Joint Terrorism Task Forces, have their hands pretty full with the 67 or 70 jihadist foreign terrorist organizations as it is. So I don't know who's going to take on this load of the cartels, the Mexican cartels, or how many. That's my worry about the whole thing anyway, but it does look like it's going to go through, and we will have the authorities to do things to the cartel. I hope we do. Who's against killing those guys or putting them in prison? Nobody.
Well, apparently the New York Times ran a headline, I'm sure you saw it, where they said that, doing this will be disruptive in America. That's how far the left goes. And you've also seen the reports, though, of varying numbers of troops headed to the border. And you know better than anyone that some of these areas in the border we don't control our own border. So if isn't he putting troops there in harm's way? And what will they be doing there if not send a warning signal? And will the cartels back off?
Well, it's unclear how they're going to use those troops. I saw a video yesterday of tanks. I mean, like full-on tanks going down there. So I don't know what that's all about, but they're putting in traditional armored personnel carriers that are good at moving troops around and protecting them from gunfire and that sort of thing, and they can fire back too. Really, the issue there is that we have a manpower problem in blue states like Arizona, New Mexico, and California. They're not, Texas isn't a problem because we've had the Texas Department of Public Safety and the Texas military down there for years now, who know exactly what they're doing. But there's gaps. But Arizona, California, New Mexico are wide open, and the military should be able to detain the immigrants that are crossing, the illegal aliens that are crossing through, so that they can be turned over to Border Patrol, and this time be expelled immediately back into Mexico, not released into the interior. It's a 180-degree swivel on what Border Patrol is doing. End of catch and release. In that case, it's really important to have military down there because you have to have boots on the ground to catch these guys, and all their surveillance equipment too, and military aircraft and everything like that. So it can only help against the cartels, who will be moving people through our new cordon. And speaking of which, I think that these guys are going to have different rules of engagement. I don't know. I haven't heard what they are yet, but in the past we put military down there and their chambers are unloaded. There's nothing in the magazines. They have rifles, but they can't fire them, right? So what I'm hoping is that this time they will be able to fire. They'll be able to let loose if they need to.
Yeah, you're talking about rules of engagement. That's certainly changed. And I would imagine that those tanks and armored personnel carriers, more than anything else, are just a show of force. I mean, we've heard for the last 4 years, our guys down on the border are outgunned, outmanned, there's more incentive for the cartels. These guys down on the border, their morale is crap, whether they be in CBP or whether they're ICE agents. ICE agents have become effectively just bookkeepers and note takers. Well, now they're not. Now they're strapping on the armor again, and they're getting the job done. So maybe that's what the show of force is all about. It's going to be interesting to see how the cartels respond to that. What you have a brand new 3-piece docu-series out, Todd. Why don't you tell us about that and where we can check it out and what you dive into on that docu-series?
Sure. Well, we all always talk about when it comes to the border that there's this national security threat. Jihadists could come over the border. It's often ridiculed by the left. Uh, but Trump has spoken of this many times. Tom Homan constantly talks about it. Islamic terrorists could come over that border and do something, but it never actually happened until now. Now it's happened. One came over, African from Mauritania, March of 2023 from Mexico, Tijuana into San Diego, and made his way up to Chicago. And in just this last October, conducted a full-scale, legally charged terror attack on the Jewish community there, Orthodox Jews. He was going to massacre them in their synagogues, but instead caught one out in the open and couldn't resist and shot that Jewish guy down in the streets of Chicago. And then afterwards, police responded, and there was probably a 4-minute firefight all over this community. They wounded the guy, the Mauritanian, and took him into custody. And he was actually charged with terrorism. Now, this thing got almost no media coverage. And then about a month later in November, he hanged himself in jail. So now there wouldn't even be a trial so that we could learn all the details of how we handled this guy, how he got in, what we did with him, how he made his way to Chicago. He had all kinds of jihadist stuff on his phone. He was pro Hamas, hated Jews. It was the war in Gaza. And I felt like, well, this thing's going to get lost if at least I don't go there and do the best I can to investigate it. And the result is a 3-part series. I went to Chicago for about a week, spoke with the victim, the first interview ever with the Jewish victim, with his rabbi, with all the witnesses in the neighborhood, and with the roommates of the shooter, who is now dead, and produced a 3-part series called First Blood. It's mostly written. There's not video. It's a print series that you can read about, that where the third one is all about how we fix that problem so that it can't happen again. We have thousands of people from countries like Mauritania, that tens of thousands. I would say, well over 100,000 that were let into the country with minimal vetting. And so I kind of feel like, especially in Chicago, where they're going to be rebelling against Homan and ICE to arrest criminal aliens or people from terror countries in Chicago, that's a place that really needs to emphasize that there was a terror attack there by one of these guys. Why are you going to be protecting people like that? Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnston. So anyway, that is up at CIS.org, Center for Immigration Studies.org, up in the carousel there, or under my name, that 3-part series. And I think it'll be really important to emphasize what happened there in Chicago when Tom Homan goes there and starts with his ICE guys and starts arresting people there, illegals.
Maybe even the mayor.
Yeah, Todd, in 2015 and 16, I ran for U.S. Senate against Kamala Harris. And I said in the nuclear terrorist age, you can't have wide open borders, that times have changed. And the technology available today to these people is vastly different than when immigration, the big numbers of immigration happened 140 to 100 years ago in the United States. So I'm interested in your thoughts related to President Trump starting the discussion on birthright citizenship. I don't think, as a historian, I don't think those who were dealing with the 14th Amendment after the Civil War were thinking about tourism, birthright, and all those issues. They plainly weren't. But where does this discussion go in your mind, and how important is it?
it's extremely important to have that discussion and the legal battles and to finally get an answer from the Supreme Court. I think that's what the Trump administration's whole strategy is. But we have to remember why they're bothering. It's that for decades, and especially in recent decades, illegal immigrants or people, foreign nationals from around the world, have horrendously, systematically abused that interpretation of the law. Huge industries have grown up in China and India and really the world over to get their pregnant women in here just ahead of birth, have their babies, get logged in, get them logged in as an American, and either stay here or go back home and later send the young person back and do chain migration. So the numbers of the amount of fraud involved in this. I mean, let me just give you a quick idea of what I'm talking about. When Biden first started, came into office, one of the categories of foreign national that he exempted from expulsions. Remember, we had COVID expulsions back then, were pregnant women 7 months and up. So guess what? We started seeing tens of thousands of pregnant women 7 months and up across the border, coming through the Darien Gap, dying out there with their pregnancies, having babies on the trail and dying, coming through in the huge numbers, tens of thousands of pregnant women rushing to get in to take advantage of that invitation. We will take you if you are pregnant at a certain point. We'll take you in. That's why they came. That sort of thing has to stop. It's killing people, and it's abusive. So I don't think that the Trump administration is going to be able to do anything about this right now, other than what they're doing, which is to get a case in front of the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court will rule one way or another on what the 14th Amendment really means on that. And there's a pretty good chance that the Supreme Court will strike it down the way Trump wants it. I don't know if it's an overwhelming chance, but there are lots of legal scholars that read that 14th Amendment language in a way that, birthright citizenship is not a right in the 14th Amendment. So that's all they're trying to do. And sure enough, just like clockwork, like they planned, the Trump administration planned, that executive order, very carefully written for the Supreme Court, drew 20 different lawsuits. Perfect. That's exactly what the plan was. Mission accomplished. So now we just wait for it. We got 4 years for this thing to go to the Supreme Court now. Plenty of time to get a ruling. I think
hopefully it makes it before that.
Yeah, if you look at the language, first of all, for years I've been saying the 14th Amendment is probably the most powerful law in America today, because of its potential to cover so many items. And again, at the time it was brought in, it had the people who wrote that were not thinking of these matters. The problem is the interpretation or the practice over the last 100 years with regard to birthright citizenship. So at the very least, Todd, like your comment on this, the fact that the left pushes back so hard against it, I actually think hurts them, because they seem to be once again fighting a battle that people decided in the last election.
Well, let them be on the record, defending that horribly abused incentive carrot that has brought in just probably over the years millions of people through chain migration. Not to mention that a lot of the pregnant women that I interviewed, I don't know how many, I've probably interviewed hundreds of pregnant women crossing the border. And they all are keenly aware that when they drop a baby in the United States, a US citizen, then they automatically qualify, the whole family qualifies for welfare benefits, the whole range of welfare benefits. So the costs associated with this on the American taxpayer is incalculable. Nobody's really calculated what that is, but they're all aware that they're going to get, the whole family is going to get supported as soon as she gives birth in a US hospital, free of charge, by the way, because none of them pay for that. That goes right to the taxpayers or the hospital system, usually helping to drive them into the red. So I think it's very important. It's a tremendous incentive. A lot of foreign nationals have died over it getting here.
Yeah. Well, Todd, that's exactly kind of to Tom's point earlier, and that this is all about incentives and disincentives. And when you tell a bunch of pregnant women, hey, guess what? Not only are we going to take care of you and the baby, but aunt and uncle and grandma on both sides get to come over, and so do the nieces and nephews. And oh, you got step siblings. They can come too. It's just such a, you know what? For lack of a better word, it's a racket. And I think the 14th Amendment notwithstanding, it's one of the slave amendments, freed slave amendments. That's what it was drawn up for. We all know that. The one line in the 14th Amendment says, or in the jurisdiction thereof. None of these people are within our jurisdiction. They're here illegally. So I guess we'll have to settle this one at SCOTUS, and fingers crossed that Chief Justice Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett vote the right way. But anyway,
however it goes at the Supreme Court, it's an amazing accomplishment for a president to even do this, to get that question answered one way or another. It should be answered.
Hear, hear. Todd Bensman, thank you so much. Again, Center for Immigration Studies. He's a senior national security fellow. Go follow him. Todd, tell us on closing here, tell us where we can find you. And we thank you for joining us today.
Sure. Well, you can go to my website, toddbensman.com, and sign up for my newsletter. It's free. And anytime I write something, I'll push it out on that and let you know I've got something new. And I'm on X, Bensman Todd, at Bensman Todd on X. I'm also on Truth Social, very active there. Getter, LinkedIn, everywhere I can be. Not Facebook, not everywhere, but and I work for the Center for Immigration Studies, CIS.org. You can find all my stuff either at toddbensman.com or there.
There you go. Well, we certainly do hope to have you back again. Yeah. Thank you, Todd. All right. We'll be right back with more Del Beccaro and Hook right after this. And welcome back to Del Beccaro and Hook's Enlightened Dissent. Boy, what a great guest Todd Bensman was. That was good. By the way, before we jump into this segment, just another quick reminder, because we really encourage you to follow us. Follow us on our new landing page, delandhook.com. So make sure you go there, bookmark it, like it, share it, do all of that fun stuff. And then, of course, check us out on Rumble, YouTube, patriot.tv/DHED. Don't forget America Uncensored News Network. We're there, too. And, of course, our dear friends at Ex America News. Okay, Tom, we've both had time to sit back and kind of take it all in. And I don't know about you, but I've been smiling more than I have for a long time as I see Trump signing these EOs and really leading, which is something we haven't seen in a long time. One of the big things that he did, and a lot of conservatives across the Twitterverse, or the Xverse, I guess you would say, were really cheering on, was removing security clearance from the 51 ex-spooks and intel guys and gals that signed that letter saying that this Russian, that this Hunter laptop had all the hallmarks of a Russian information campaign. And of course,
Disinformation,
yeah, disinformation. Well, but you see, here's the reason I said information was because that's Brennan's line. Brennan is saying, we never said it was disinformation. We said it was Russian information. Of course, the day after that letter came out, Politico had a huge headline, Russian disinformation campaign at the root of the Hunter laptop. So we know where they were going with it. And it's important to point out, folks, when people like John Brennan and James Clapper and Leon Panetta no longer have security clearance, their relevancy to any network they're on has just dropped significantly. They are no longer in the loop, and I suspect that they won't be on the payroll for much longer, but we'll see. They are like wounded animals, and they're going to fight to survive. Here's John Brennan. Check him out with Andrea Mitchell, one of the biggest hack journalists over at MSNBC. But here's John Brennan explaining what stripping of his security clearance means to him. Go.
The only reason why I still had a security clearance, as I have for the past number of years since I left government service, was for the benefit of the government, so that if the CIA or another government agency wanted to call me in to discuss a classified matter, they could do that. And so it was really for the government's benefit. It was facilitate those classified discussions with myself, as well as with former directors, as well as other former members of the intelligence community that had those clearances. So again, yesterday's EO was bizarre, among many of the bizarre executive orders that he had signed out. And as you point out, he misrepresented the facts in that executive order, because it said that we had suggested that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation. No, we said it was for the hallmarks of Russian information operations, including the dumping of accurate information, which is what we said in that letter. So again, this was just, his effort to try to get back at those individuals who have criticized him openly and publicly in the past, and I think very legitimately.
I mean, unbelievable. No. We said it was Russian information, not disinformation. Some of them were very legit. No, the hell you didn't say that, John. No, you didn't.
Well, I mean, look, he says because he lost his security clearance, he can't benefit the government. Actually, he wasn't a benefit to the government. He was actually a detriment to the American Republic, because he has been providing disinformation and lying to the American public, just like Clapper did when he sat there like this. Well, we didn't wittingly take the information. No, these guys are bad. Period. Full stop. And I don't understand why we have in today's information age, where hacking is the form of warfare we all better get used to. Having all these immense lists of people getting this information through technological means, as opposed to handing them a piece of paper, is dangerous. And he's dangerous. So no one's going to miss Mr. Brennan for what he did to America, or what he would still do to America. But to play the victim, I was just trying to help everybody, lie to get Biden elected.
Yeah. And also it's worth pointing out that laptop that is absolutely 100% Hunter Biden's laptop was left at that PC store, that Mac store, wherever the hell it was, and that he left it in, I think it was Massachusetts. And
it was Delaware.
And beg your pardon, Delaware. You're right. Yeah, Delaware. There you go. Makes more sense. So he left it in Delaware and probably was strung out and didn't remember leaving it. But the FBI came and they copied the hard drive, and then they left the laptop. And they had that for 2 years. And then that guy finally called up, and I guess he got in touch with Rudy and some of Trump's people and said, hey, I got this thing. So for them to come out and then say, well, this has all the earmarks of Russia, of a Russian information campaign, is just, it was such a blatant lie. And to see, if Andrea Mitchell were a real journalist, she would say that. She would say, well, wait a minute, Mr. Whatever the hell, John, you had the laptop. Yeah, you had it.
They knew it was a lie. They knew they were lying.
Yeah, but I mean, that's so. This kind of goes back to our earlier point. They don't know when to pivot off of their narrative and to stop their agenda. They can't stop it. They can't stop themselves from lying. And Andrea Mitchell is no more innocent than John Brennan or James Clapper or Leon Panetta or any of the others, because they were all part of it.
Which is why also they are against anybody who Trump puts in the intelligence network. I mean, look at the Tulsi Gabbard story. Oh, she's a Russian plant. Okay, whatever, dude. Really? That's the best you got? They're against these people because these people outright say that you did bad things, and and the reality is they're gonna be uncovered. They're gonna show that the documents exist, and these people are going to be exposed for what they did. And that's why they're against this. They're not against all of these people because all of these people are so bad and they have no experience and blah blah blah. No, they know these people are going to uncover them. Kash Patel doesn't lack experience. So I'm sorry, who did they put in front of some of their thing? HHS.
Yeah.
Right, and they're going to tell and John Ratliff, what are you telling me? He doesn't have experience? No, but he outright said that you guys, 51 or however, you guys said these things and you knew them not to be true. So this is just, they're going to take a further hit, and their recovery is years out because of it.
If I were advising Pete Hegseth and Ratcliffe and these people, now they're, of course, I think Hegseth may well get confirmed this weekend. We shall see. Maybe maybe today. We're filming this on a Friday. Maybe today we'll find out. But I would have said, wear a dress to the confirmation hearings, Pete. Hey, Cash,
and then you would have a better chance.
Yeah, Cash, put some eyeliner on. Maybe go with a nice bright red lipstick, and you might consider doing your hair up in a bouffant. I joke, but I mean, that's how stuck they are. How do you argue with you're not qualified, but you look good in that Louis Vuitton gown? I mean, yes, so you're confirmed. Seriously here for a second. It looks like Tulsi Gabbard is going to be the one that's going to have the toughest time right now. I think Hegseth is through. Kash Patel may come under that as well. But I think Kash will get through. But what do you think about Tulsi Gabbard? Because Tulsi Gabbard is a threat to them on so many levels.
Look, I think her temperament will be just to sit. I mean, I've met her. We've seen her. I think her temperament's going to be great. And they're going to say all these horrible things. And she's just going to shrug her shoulders and say, none of this is true. Their entire strategy is, when did you stop beating your husband? And so, and they've already taken a hit for doing it. So I don't know. Unless they pull something out of a hat and show that she was an axe murderer in the past, and they would have done that already. So it may be that they're coming for her, but I don't know what ammunition they have. I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, certainly one thing we can say, and I knock on wood, John Thune seems to be running a pretty tight ship as the majority leader in the Senate right now. He's getting the votes. It looks like they've whipped enough votes for Hegseth, and I mean, if they do the math the way they think it is, it looks like initially McConnell, Murkowski, and Collins were going to vote against Pete Hegseth. Now it looks like it's only going to be Collins and Murkowski. So it may not even come down to a tie-breaking vote for J.D. Vance with regards to Hegseth's confirmation. So that's why I think Pete is in. Tulsi Gabbard, I mean, that's going to be the one where you may have to, it may require a little bit more work. But I think that as Trump racks up success after success, and in this first week, I think he's done more in the first week. Hell, he did more in the first 3 days, I think, than Biden did in the first full year of his administration.
Well, let me counterpoint that, because I think behind the scenes, the people call it the deep state, and his advisors were doing all kinds of stuff we just don't know.
Yeah, true.
And part of what the Trump administration has have to do is have to uncover all of these things and all of these regulations and the like to try and reverse these things, because the Biden administration, their level of regulation exploded, and they didn't talk about it. And because that's how you get away with things on the left. People don't know actually what you did. And so that's why Trump's putting out these blanket rules saying whatever they did,
Undo it.
Yeah. And maybe don't even actually put in that. So put in the exact, every exact thing, because they still don't even know every exact thing. But that's the deep state's plan, is to rule without you knowing it. You go about your business, and we're not going to tell you all that we're going to do, and you're going to find out once you cross the line.
Yeah.
Often.
Pass the bill before we know what's in the bill. Pass the board bill, and then you can read the bill. Kind of throwback.
Yeah, mentality. So we'll have to see how these things play out. But so far, I think the Democrats have done themselves additional harm in these particular hearings, because, as you talk about, they're out of step and they have no other playbook.
Yeah, they have.
As James Carville admitted.
He rightly admitted that. Well, it's funny because we're talking about leadership and stuff. While Biden may not have wanted you to know what he was doing and what his cabal was doing behind the scenes, and there's certainly a lot of truth to that, Trump is making it very clear he is the leader. Here's what we're going to do. And like I said before, he's inviting the press corps in there as he's doing. I mean, he's multitasking, which is something we never saw Biden do. So that's going to be something. Did you happen to watch Trump's response to Davos, where he never even went to Davos, which is in its own way a bit of a bitch slap? He says, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to do it from the White House. Then the next day, flying to North Carolina to look at the devastation that happened there a couple of months ago that the Biden administration kind of ignored. But did you watch the Davos thing? Because he called these guys out, whether it was Jamie Dimon or just these Eurocrats. I mean, he called them right out to their face. It was really refreshing.
Well, look, he's got a job to do. He's not out there to rule the world. He's not out there to play nice. He's there to improve people's lives. Again, this isn't political platitudes. This is business deliverables. And he promised deliverables, and and they're irrelevant to his job to deliver on these things, just as the same it was for Argentina. The worst possible thing is centralized power. Trump believes that, and they believe that. I'm still waiting, of course, for these journalists and historians to be thrown into jail. But perhaps that'll come when everybody else is free, and at the last moment. Wait a minute, that's Biden who does last things at the last moment. So what's up? We appreciate everyone once again joining us this weekend. Go to DellandHook.com, go to Ex American News, go to all of these outlets for us, Patriot TV, and share these things and bring other people in. We'll be back this weekend again with another show. We're going to have Frank Gaffney join us and talk about foreign policy as well. But for now, thanks for supporting us, and we'll see you soon.